once I wound up on the sidewalk at 4:00 in the afternoon, passed out. I woke up and there were 3 firemen over me asking me, Randy, what are you doing?
And that was the beginning of your sobriety. And did it ever break after that?
Yes, I have these very vivid memories in the crib, and it's like I had spirits, friends. I had regular conversations with God.
I wonder if he is giving you just the little pushes when you need them, but then he's stepping in and being who he is and was with the people that really need those in the moment.
The biggest gift of coaching people, I get to use intuition with people, and it's so much easier to use it with them. And I've practiced it, I've honed it. One thing that I think I still fully haven't grieved is
Oldish. The art of knowing more and caring less. With your host, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
But how much was there that was left?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Don't know.
How do you process that? Did you expect that? Did you know it was coming? How did you handle it?
I was at a time in my life I was deep in my addiction at that point, and there was so much going on. Like I was shooting a reality show at the time, which again was the antithesis of who I was, what I wanted to do. It didn't feel authentic to me, even though we're making this show, and I'm literally like deep in my addiction, like off the rails. My dad already had dementia and was declining, but right when the show started, he really started rapidly declining and then passed away while I was filming the show. So I'm battling addiction. I'm shooting this show that I don't even want to be doing, and there's a camera on me all the time, camera in the rooms.
Wow.
So I'm like trying to hide stuff and do stuff, and then worried about what's going to make it on camera, what can I share, what can I not share, and then, because our family's public, I'm also holding that. How's this going to affect, my mom, my sister, the family? So I couldn't hold it all. And when he passed, I was in pain of losing him. And then there was unfortunately a lot of drama around. There's a lot of family drama around when he passed. So that quickly also kind of overshadowed even just the processing of losing my father, and dealing with all of that. So I at that point I wasn't thinking about the money. And also I was 26 years old. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is going to change my life, or this is going to money-wise. It was just like, okay, here's what I'm dealing with. And then when I found out that it was that much, the only thing I thought was, okay. Like I was later, it was a little bit later, maybe a few months down the road. And again, other people's reactions, because the expectation
of a monstrous inheritance
was, oh, you guys are set up.
You're set for life.
Yeah.
You guys, have a trust that you're living off of. That was just sort of the expectation. And when it really was highlighted for me was when I got clean, when I turned my life around, shortly after my dad passed away. And then I was like, I don't even know if I want to act anymore. What do I want to do with myself? How do I want to make a difference? I feel like I have a second chance in life. I'm here for more. I'm here for a purpose. I got back to my spiritual roots and again had another sort of awakening. That's when I went into coaching. And I remember when I first started, when I would do these consultation meetings, and one of the questions was, why are you even charging money? You don't have to work. Why are you even working? And even when I did a couple interviews and I started telling people what I was doing, this came up. And that was when I was like, oh, this is so frustrating because this is not true. I am not living off of a trust. Granted, we were given $800,000. That's nothing to sneeze at for most people.
For sure.
So
Sure.
I want to say
Massive
that
amount of money,
and
yes.
make sure that that is. Unfortunately, I didn't have the wherewithal and the money financial knowledge that I have now. So I kept it just where it was. And then in 2007, when the market tanked, that pretty much tanked with it.
Oh, wow.
And instead of just holding on to it, like they tell you to do, I didn't know. I was like,
Sell.
safe. Let's just be safe. I don't want to lose any more money. And so I never recaptured that back, unfortunately. But if I was smart back then, I would have taken that $800,000. I probably would have invested it and done something with it to build it. But I didn't know what I didn't know.
Where were you living at the time when your dad passed?
I was living in a guest house
Okay.
off of Robertson area, 3rd Street area. And I'll tell you, I can't remember her name. In the front house, next door, was a woman who was on 90210. She was an actress. She had curly hair, not Rebecca Gayheart, but she had curly hair.
Kari were?
No.
No?
Oh, if you say her name, I'll try and find it.
Okay.
But we became friendly. And then there were a few times where, I remember once I wound up on the sidewalk at 4:00 in the afternoon, passed out, and I woke up and there were 3 firemen over me asking me, what's your name, blah, blah, blah. And I remember she was there and she was just like, and she sat me down and she was like, Randy, what are you doing? And she got me to do like a cleanse of like a master cleanse. Remember that with the maple syrup and the cayenne?
lemon and the,
And I was like trying to show her that I was healthy for 3 days, but I just couldn't maintain that. So I was in this little guest house, and honestly, I don't have good memories there because again, I was like at the height of my addiction. So there'd be people coming over to like 4 a.m. and things that happened there. And my dad passed away when I was living in that space. And then after he passed away and I was done filming that show, because I had to live in a certain house for that show, I went back, and then that's when I went to rehab, and I was like, I'm leaving. And I remember I had a friend there who was kind of like on and off, just living with me, but just like hanging there, like a hanger-oner. And I went in and I said, I'm done and you need to leave and I'm going to rehab. And he packed his stuff. It was like slightly contentious, and I went to my mom's house, and 4 days later I went to rehab, and I never went back to that place other than to get my stuff. But once I was done, I was like, I'm never going back to that place.
And that was the beginning of your sobriety.
Yeah.
And did it ever break after that?
Yes. My sobriety broke, what was it? It was about 3 months after that, maybe, when I got home. And that's sort of typical a lot of time. I mean, the statistics of sobriety and rehab are so low. I forget what it is now. What it used to be was like 14%
Of success.
of success.
Wow.
Because then you get back into real life and you get where all the
Right.
Yeah,
you
you're
get
out
where
of
all
your
the
life in
stuff is.
therapy, and it's great, and meals are
And
done
it's
for
easy
you.
to like kind of stay off because it's all there and it's like this group
Yeah,
thing
you're
of
being
everybody's
watched.
in there for the same reason, and so you're all
Yep. You
pumping
go
each
back
other up.
to your same life. You have the same triggers. You're dealing with the same issues that you were dealing with that led you to using or drinking or whatever the addiction is. And then having to change all of that. And I remember, so sorry to answer your question. It broke on and off for like a few months after rehab. And then that was it. And then I had like one incident where I was getting headaches at the time. And I remember like I was never a prescription pill person, but I remember taking a type of prescription pill. It was some sort of like barbiturate. And then I had a couple days of that, and then that was it. And since then,
After you broke, did you go back into rehab, or you dealt with it back out?
I flailed a little bit. I did. I flailed because I had to relearn my whole life. I mean, since I was 13, this sounds so extreme, but like I would drink here and there on weekends, right? But when I was 15, I lost my virginity at 15. And I remember we were sort of like drinking back then. So for me, it was, besides girlfriends that I had, obviously, even like meeting someone new and having sex or whatever, now that I'm completely sober and I have nothing to fall back on, I felt like I was 12 again. Yeah. And they say,
you have to relive those years.
All of the years like that, when you start drinking, using whatever, and it starts to become more of a crutch, you emotionally become stunted at that age and have to relearn. And I felt like that. I felt like I was walking around like an exposed nerve. I was like, what do I do? How do I hang out with people? How do I talk to people? And I had to meet myself and realize like, maybe I'm a little bit socially anxious, or I have this whole ticker tape in my head now of like the wonder years talking to me, and it was scary.
You talked about your need for escapism, or you were so drawn to it, and obviously substance abuse is such a massive part of that. When did you start? You started escapism a little bit when you wrote that script and you filmed that piece. You didn't realize what it was, but when did you start heading into substance abuse?
I think I started escapism very, very early on.
Even before writing the script?
Oh, you like crib.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Wait, take me back to that.
Yeah. I mean, so I wouldn't consider this necessarily escapism, but I have these memories, and I've done various types of work and modalities, anything from like EMDR to somatic therapy to Reichian therapy. I mean, I've really like run the gamut because I'm also like a seeker too. And I have these very vivid memories in the crib, and it's like I had friends.
Yeah.
Right? I had spirits, friends. Like I had regular conversations with God. I think I told you guys this, but when I was young, my parents sent me to a psychologist at UCLA because there was all this phenomenon happening around me where things were winding up in my crib, and more specifically, a Vaseline bottle kept winding up in my crib, and then they put it on the shelf. And then Nanny would be like, I put it on the shelf and it's in his crib after his nap time. And then they would put it somewhere else. They'd put it in the bathroom, and it kept winding up in my crib. And then, when I was like barely verbal, I would tell my dad about his war stories or what my mom was going to wear, a night or two.
So crazy.
And I guess it was enough where they were going, okay, what is this? And I don't think they were scared, but they were like.
But it was different.
It was different. So they sent me to some. So for me, I guess this was my form of, this feels very out of place, this life and world here. So I'm going to connect more in that world.
Because this is safe.
Totally.
So that's what I did. I connected a lot. So
I'm
that
not
was
lonely in this.
That was my easy, like, let me go up and out. Let me not be in body and be grounded. Let me go up and out and, play out there.
Especially starting at that age, like you're talking in the crib, the veil is so thin.
So thin.
You obviously had this understanding that you were still so connected to it, and you just made the most of it.
Yeah.
And so this Vaseline bottle, do you know how it got in your crib? Would you remember?
Yeah, but
I don't.
Is there an end to that story, or is it just like?
Well, what I do remember on the Vaseline, I could be making this up, I'm not sure, but I remember that there was a row of ducks, and it was a mama duck, and I remember it being blue, and it was a mama duck and these little blue ducks, and I think it was like family. Like, oh, there's the ducks in a family, and that's what I want. So for me, I want the
It
Vaseline
was always
bottle.
reminding you the picture. It wasn't about the Vaseline itself. It was about the picture that was on the container.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you ended up using substances, because some people use it to get up and out, right? Some people are just addicted to the feeling of not being present,
Right.
right? There's a different sense to it. But there are also those that use it to connect up and out or spiritually or pierce the veil or, break through things. Do you think you were using it for that, or were you truly just trying to not be present at the
Good
time?
question. I think it depends on which type of substance. So I think alcohol was not that.
No,
It
not
did
at all.
not
It
connect me more.
numbs you out.
It would numb me. And I was like, oh, I have more courage. It's a social lubricant. Like this is, I like who I am. So it sort of dulled any lack of confidence that I had. And then I didn't have to deal with that lack of confidence. So that was the alcohol piece. I do remember when I started to get into spirituality and metaphysics and self-help and all of that at 16, 17, I found ecstasy. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. And the person who I first tried it with, I was 17 turning 18. And because I was sort of into like connection and feeling, they were like, take a little piece of this and, and try. And so I did. And it wasn't like, oh shit, I'm high. It was like, ooh, my senses, I could feel, and it became sort of like a spiritual. And I know now in this,
It's
they
used
use
for that.
MDMA for
Yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I actually, for the next year and a half, maybe from, I would say 18 to like 20, I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to drink on it. I didn't want to feel messed up. I wanted that connection because I would have telepathic communications with a friend, one or two friends of mine. We would literally sit there across the room. So all those gifts that I had when I was little, and then I sort of pushed down because as a teenager, none of my friends were into that or having those conversations. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to be a
weird.
boy
Right.
and a
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
and,
yeah.
Right, totally.
let's talk
Yeah.
about girls and
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah. But
yeah.
I was super sensitive. Now I was like, ooh, I'm going to make music and write poetry, and I'm going to have these experiences where I would have these like real sort of deep spiritual experiences on and off the drugs at this time.
Right.
From about 18 to 21, I had some really far out experiences.
What's one that you can remember that you can share?
I had a couple out of body experiences. I had one where my friend was across the room and we were pretty connected because we were making music together at the time. So we were close, but something would pop in my head and I would then answer and I would say one or two sentences and he would come over to me and repeat the sentences that I would say.
Wow.
And vice versa. And so much so, this would happen enough where you just couldn't deny.
Right. It was. Right.
You were like, okay, and I remember once, because I knew you around then, and remember like you and Trey, we would have these conversations,
Yeah.
these sort of like deep spiritual conversations. I was meditating a lot back then. It was one of my favorite things to do. I would meditate. I put like a red light bulb because I really liked the calmness of the red light. And I was acting at the time, so I'd memorize my lines at night. I'd like read a book before bed, and then I'd get into bed and I'd be so excited. I'd pull the covers up and I'd sort of like sit up like in my bed and I would take a few deep breaths and drift off, and then I would feel someone come into my room. I don't know, that sounds freaky, but it was like the most beautiful. I would feel the presence of a spirit or whatever, and who sort of like became a guide for me. And the love, I don't even know how to explain because I can't put it into words. It's
Right.
not like a human love. It's like, oh, this is home. This is who I am. Like I am love, and you could feel it almost like a liquid gel that comes over your whole body. So this was regular for me. And I remember one night, I think I even told you this a long time ago, I had a levitation type experience but it freaked me out, where I would get all these visions deep in meditation. And then at one point I heard this loud noise and I felt myself, whether I was actually levitating or not, I don't know.
Right.
But I experienced one of my bodies, subtle body or whatever, lifting up. And then there was this loud noise, and the noise freaked me out. And the whole, I felt like I started spinning. And so I was like, and then I sort of like plopped in my bed.
Put the brakes on and stopped.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to
swear to God, I kind of remember that story. Like,
I think I
you're
told
telling
you
it-
in trade.
Yeah, you're telling
you guys
me now,
were like,
and
whoa.
I'm like, I vaguely remember that because we had already been talking a lot about out of body experiences.
Yeah.
And like Trey and I were really in this place of like, yeah, let's focus and try and do that. So to hear that,
Yeah.
we were, as crazy as it sounded when you were telling it, I remember there was a part of us that was like so envious of the fact that you had that. But I remember you were like, I got so freaked out. Like I just stopped it and put the brakes on.
And were you using it this
No.
time?
No.
This was in your sobriety. This was
No,
the
I wasn't
period of
sober.
using. Right.
Yeah, I was in my using, but I mean, I had no substance in my body for a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, this was normal. Whatever I had used at one point was out of me. And I wasn't doing any sort of psychedelics
Right.
at all. I was never a big psychedelic fan.
Do you have experiences like that now? Has that continued for you?
I wish I had more experiences like that. I have experiences, but not that out of body. I get visions, but I have to still myself because everything is so much more fast paced now. And I had to really work hard because after so much of my addiction, there was a part of me that thought, oh, I'm not going to have those experiences again because I like broke my brain, right? Which wasn't true. But I had to then work through the years of whatever, if I did do any damage, whatever years of that, and all of the doubt that I had, because I had a lot of doubt, and I grew a pretty healthy skepticism, even though I was sort of into all of this. I was like, am I making
all
this
this,
up?
right.
Am I really intuitive? And through the work that I've done with people, the biggest gift of coaching people for now 17, 18 years is I get to use intuition with people, and it's so much easier to use it with them. And I've practiced it. I've honed it. So I can literally sit in a room full of people and, you know, they get past the mic and they're asking me questions, and my human self does not know. Maybe through dealing with so many people, I'm like, okay, I have an idea of what's going on, but what's going to get to the heart of what's going to make a change for them is not a generic thing. It's very specific to them. So a lot of times I'll ask, okay, help me right now, guide me. What do they most need to know? And I mean, some people, whether it's on Zoom or in the rooms, they might think this is really weird because I'll sort of like close my eyes or I'll pause for 20, 30 seconds until I receive a vision, a picture, information, words, something that I will then say. And sometimes, you guys, it's really weird because I'll say these things and I'm listening to myself say it and I'm almost like, oh my gosh, what's coming out? What am I saying? And sometimes it's even against what I would normally tell someone, but it's what they need to hear.
You've learned now to trust that voice, which
I've
is
learned to trust.
a lot of really experienced empaths and things like that. That's what they say. Like you go through that stage of you're hearing these voices and these things and you're going, oh my, am I just like bullshitting myself? And it's not until you really start trusting yourself and going, okay, this is more than me, and I have to just say what is coming to me.
Yes. So much easier though to do it with other people
Yeah.
versus myself.
For sure.
Because when you're in a situation where you need to make a decision, you're like, oh, this or that. What's the path? What am I supposed to do? And my mind is going, well, this is what you should do. This, on paper. And then my heart or my soul is sort of like, there's another idea here. So that is still constant work to still myself enough to be able to trust and listen. But, I get communication constantly, even if I'm getting in the car, out of the car. I actually have a super cool story if you want to hear that really solidified. So the last time I was in town, there was a lot going on. I sort of flew in and flew out, and it's very rare. I had no work stuff. Like, we were done filming, and it was just a day where this afternoon I was like, you know what? I'm going to take myself to the movies. I haven't gone to see a movie by myself in years. I don't even actually love going to the movies. But I was like, and it felt indulgent, and I was like, I'm going to do this. So I went over to the Century City Mall, and I said, I'm going to get a bite to eat. And I didn't even know where. I was sort of just meandering. Went in, there was this little sushi place. I got one little roll on happy hour. I was like, okay, that's good. And then I had a little time to kill. So I'm walking through, and I'm texting my wife about a birthday gift for my daughter, which was another message that I got. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then I see Old Navy. And I go, I need to go in there. And I have nothing against Old Navy. I like Old Navy, but I've never shopped at Old Navy, right? So I'm like, oh, I need to go. But I'm like, I need to go in there. I go into Old Navy, and I'm fighting with myself the whole time. There's nothing that I want here. There's nothing that I need here.
This?
Why am I doing? But I'm sort of looking at these linen shirts. Something's on sale. And then I go, okay, time to go. And literally, the message that I get is, just look over to the right. I'm going, but now it wins out, because there's this like fine line between, it's a message that I almost can't go against. Right? It's sort of like, it's really hard for me to lie. I can't go against this, even though my mind is like, Randy, go sit. So I go, and then I end up trying on something, and I'm like, I don't need this. But I buy something, and then she's telling me, oh, you have a little coupon for next time. And I'm like, how does this work? And as I'm leaving the store, look to the right. Again, look to the right, and I look at this, and I'm like, yeah, there's shorts there.
Yeah.
And I go past it, stop, go over, look at the shorts. I'm like, I have shorts like this. I don't need... I was going to France, though, and then I see, out of all these shorts, there's this one pair that, they were different than the other ones. So long story short, I end up going in the dressing room. I'm literally fighting the whole time, going, I don't even want to try something on. Why? But I'm like, oh, I guess they're kind of cool. I end up getting the shorts. This takes a while. I leave the store, and I'm looking on my phone now. I mean, it sounds like I'm looking on my phone. As I come out, two people jump back because I'm coming out and they're walking this direction, and they jump out of line so we don't hit each other. And I hear, oh my God, Randy. And I look up, and it's Tori and her manager. Tori doesn't live anywhere close in the vicinity. They're like, what are you doing here? And I go, I don't know. I don't even come to Old Navy.
I don't know why I'm here. I think I'm here because of you.
But here's the thing. One could go, it's a coincidence. It's in the same city, right? Tori goes, I'm never over here. But, something for iHeart. I came and watched this movie, the new Brad Pitt movie, and we came, and, we just got out. And I was like, this is so weird. I never come to this store, and I didn't even want to come to this store. And I proceeded to tell them the whole story. And what I was reminded of is everything is really precise, even if, this is an easier one because it was something kind of cool and good. It's really hard, as we always talk about, when something doesn't happen and you're like, why is this happening? But it was like the precision of that happening
Keeping you there,
at that
making
time.
sure. Yeah.
So those are the messages where a lot of times I fight against, but I end up doing it anyway because I know the difference.
Do you think a lot more people have these messages, but they just consider them the voices in their head?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everyone has intuition.
Right.
Obviously, some people are more honed and they are, I would say, more open. I don't believe that everyone is meant to be super intuitive. And the reason why I say that is because if we all were, our lives would look very different. And I think that we're sort of meant to play the roles in our lives that we're meant to play. So you might not be as open at a certain point in your life because you're meant to go through the experiences that you're meant to go through. And then you start coming online more.
Yeah.
But it's teachable. I've taught countless people through the years how to get in touch with their intuition, how to interpret these messages and voices. And it's so freeing because not only does it connect you with, there is something more, right? I think that's why people see like a John Edwards or a Teresa Caputo or who's a Tyler Henry. It's yes, it's about connecting with past loved ones, but really what I interpret from those shows, tears streaming down people's faces, is the realness. Like, oh, they're getting this. They would never know. There is something beyond the life that we're living. And that hits people like a ton of bricks.
Do you think your dad was connected in that way? Do you think this is something that was passed down to you, or you separately are you gifted with this?
I think my dad was connected in his own way, for sure.
I mean, his intuition was obviously unbelievable with what he created.
Yes, both my parents. My mom used to be wildly intuitive in many ways. And remember I told you about the sending me to a psychologist and me. I mean, one of my favorite games was asking people to pick a number and then I would guess the number.
Yeah.
They would play games with us after this, right? And they knew this was sort of a thing is we'd go upstairs, they'd put like 10 objects on the table and then they would ask us to count to 20 and then we would come down and we would pick the object that they
And so Tori
laid out
has
on
it
the
too?
table. Tori has it. Tori has intuition too, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tori's
Yeah.
super intuitive.
Yeah. It's really funny because we're all intuitive and it shows up in different ways.
Right.
Right. So my dad was in his own way, like very loving, very sweet, almost like
Childlike.
warm, mushy, like some of the notes that he would write us,
Yeah.
you would just go, oh my gosh. So he had that kind of God connection, if you will. And I don't mean that in a religious way, but you know, he grew up Jewish
Source.
and like he believed in God and he really was like, he would always tell me dog spelled backwards is God. Love dogs, right?
Yeah.
So, but he had these ways of through his work, right? I mean, he would be downloaded. I'm convinced. Yes, he was creative, but some of the things that he would just download in the middle of the night, he'd have a little piece of white paper and a felt tip pen and he would write notes. And then the next day a show would be born. That comes from somewhere.
That comes from somewhere, definitely. Yeah. You've talked about a little bit about losing your dad, and obviously the place that you were in at the time. What was it like going through sobriety and grieving? What was that healing like for you? What did it really look like? Because that's pretty big.
Yeah.
You're losing someone that meant so much to you. And I think in many ways it was also a catalyst for change. But that's a lot to experience at one time.
Oh, it was the hardest time in my life. I mean, put it this way, there was a story where there was a night where we were filming that reality show. So we were at this ridiculous house up in Sunset Hills. And it was maybe a couple weeks after my dad had passed. I was, many drinks in and whatever else. And I remember I was hungry and we were walking down the hill to Mel's Diner. And I don't even know, there were like a few girls there whom I wasn't even close with. And these other two guys. And I remember being just screaming and being so angry and kind of acting out like I ripped off my shirt and threw it and was, I was so hurt and so angry and felt so out of control and sad. And yet I couldn't hold it all. I couldn't even say, I'm just really sad because of my dad. It was just all of this stuff with family stuff and everything else. And so it would just erupt at these times because the normal, regular me would never erupt like that. So I was open, loose enough to just get it out somehow. But I think the people around me were like, wow.
Were they supportive? Did they see what was going on? And or did they just think it was alcohol-induced rage, or did they get it? Were they friends?
I think they got it, but remember, we were 26. It was like back in the clubbing days. I mean, and again, there's so much more information now. People talk about grief and processing and trauma, and people still weren't talking about that back then. So different. One thing I will say is, one thing that I think I still fully haven't grieved is that I wasn't able to grieve. I wasn't able to be there who I am now then. And I think I would have handled everything so much different. I would have been able to say some of the things that needed to be said within my family at the time. I would have been able to really step up, even though like sort of the patriarch of the family was gone. I think I could have stepped into that role easier. And I wasn't able to. And I remember I have my, if I can pull my shirt up, I got my dad's initials tattooed on my arm when I was shooting that show. And there was a show on called Miami Ink. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
And they had a tattoo parlor in Vegas at the hotel we were staying at. And I remember getting a phone call, and this was about a month before my dad had passed. And my mom was saying, there was another like sort of turn for the worse. And I remember calling Tori. She was off filming and saying, I think you need to come home and see him. And that afternoon this is my first tattoo. I got his initials because I inherently just knew this was going to be close to the end. And I was completely inebriated, and I felt like I cheated. Like I didn't experience the pain of the tattoo. I wasn't in my body. Not like I run around chasing pain.
No, I understand what you mean.
But I wasn't present. And I think that was the hardest thing, is I wasn't present in the way that I can be now. And that pained me. It's so much so that I got this tattoo, and I've been thinking about it for years. But the impetus behind this was I wanted to be in the experience, be in the body, and be present to feel what it was like. And I think that's the part that, still saddens me, is I felt it, but I didn't process it in the same way that I would now.
Right.
With your gifts that you have, do you speak to him now? Have you found, I ask because I've found so much resolution with my dad in his passing, and I have an amazing relationship with him now. And
Now.
Yes, now.
Yeah.
And similar to you, and we'll get into this when you do mine, but my grieving of him was very complicated. There was anger in there. There was lots of stuff. And in where he is now, the spiritual version of him and this relationship that I have with him is actually quite beautiful. And I don't necessarily hear him speak, but I feel him talk to me. Do you have moments where your dad is still around? Have you even had because of your gift, where he has been there or in a dream and had direct messages from him? Or have you had a chance to say things to him that you didn't get to say to him before he passed?
Not as much.
Wow.
He will visit me, and the reason it's maybe 2 to 3 times a year, and it is like clockwork. I will walk into a room and I smell his pipe. And it is such a distinct smell. No one around smokes a pipe, and it's not like you could smoke a cigar or tobacco, cigarette and have this smell. I mean, it's very distinct pipe tobacco, and his pipe tobacco was even different than like the standard pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
And I just know every time it's like, and I will always say, "Hi, Pops," and I'll acknowledge him. So I know that he visits me. The wild thing is he's active with my clients through the years. Not everyone, but they will say, I feel really weird for saying this, but I had a dream with your father, or, someone will be like, is this weird to say? Like, your father visited me, or this and that.
That's so
amazing.
crazy.
And the crazy thing
that makes Brian's experience even
right?
more like.
Yeah, like he is active with friends, people I know. So he comes to me, and that's what I'm saying. Not everyone has to be like, I would consider myself pretty intuitive, and yet I get the messages that I need, even if it's not completely direct.
Yeah, I wonder if he is giving you just the little pushes when you need them, but then he's stepping in and being who he is and was with the people that really need those in the moment. Like, he knows Randy's got this. Like, I could just kind of let him know that I'm around every once in a while, but you've got this.
Yeah.
Like his way of being a part of what you do.
Totally. I feel in some way, I've never thought about this, but I do feel in some way that we actually work a little bit in tandem
Together.
Amazing.
Because a lot of people will come to me to want to develop their spiritual side.
And
Right.
he'll be the one that comes to make that connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if then he visits them and then they check in with me and I validate that,
Then they're like, oh, it must be there.
immediately you're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
He confirms first contact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
It's
That's
really,
amazing.
really cool.
Wow.
I've
What a
never
special
told
thing to
anyone
have.
that.
Yeah, I love hearing that. You mentioned that you wish there were things that you could have said back in the time of his passing. What are some of those things that you wished you could have said either to the family or to him?
I think it was more just a way of being, inhabiting that space to hold of, this isn't happening like this. We're not going to do this, or it's not about, whatever's happening. No.
Yeah.
Right? Like that sort of thing. I don't know if it's what I would have said, but I would have also taken the space to grieve.
Yeah.
And make sure that the people around could also grieve. I just didn't know about that back then.
No, I mean, and as you said, conversations like that weren't necessarily happening.
Right. Right. I don't know if I would have said anything different, because I knew that it was going to be soonish. Like I said, that's why I got the tattoo. I remember coming home from that trip. I remember walking into the bedroom. I remember showing him the tattoo. And I actually felt bad because, he came from Jewish, but like immigrant parents, Jewish, where you don't get a tattoo.
That wasn't accepted.
Right? Like that. And I showed him and I said, I got this for you. I got this to honor you because I love you. And I don't know if this is true. He wasn't talking much then, but I feel like what I read from his eyes, it was this love and sort of like, oh. Like,
Right, yeah. Right.
why?
You could have done it in so many other
Also,
ways. Yeah.
it's not the most attractive tattoo, right? I probably would have picked something else if I was more in.
Right.
I tried to get his signature, but it just didn't quite work out that well. And so, you know, he was probably like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. I did that to my mum, but she's obviously living, and I came home and I was, look, I got your name. And she was like, I'm so mad at you, but like, it's a terrible thing. Terrible. I want to get it redone.
The thought was amazing,
So
but
cute.
God, it's so ugly.
Yeah.
So I said what I needed to say. I don't think I would have said anything different to him. It was really once he was gone and everything that ensued after that. And to this day, I mean, there's been so many times when my kids were born. I mean, that's a sad part is I really wish that he had the chance in the physical to see both of my girls because I think he would have just loved them. And I wish he would have been able to have seen Tori's kids. And I think he would have loved to see them and be around them.
To be a grandfather.
Yeah.
I get that. What do your girls know of their grandfather?
I try and tell them as many stories as I can. I mean, I think they're at the age now where certain friends, you know, people will sort of look stuff up on Google and be like, oh my God, your dad lived in this house and, you know, your grandfather. But I tell them the stories, just as many stories as I can and the fun things that I can remember that they will remember. And a lot of times they're not grandiose things that people like to tell stories of. They're tiny little funny things that just made him dad.
Yeah, because they're the things that really mattered at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they're the things that you would want him to be remembered by, of course, not the massive house, but the way that he loved and how warm he was and the way he filled a room.
That's the legacy we always talk about.
That's the legacy.
Yeah. Like as an older adult, as someone in business, I can appreciate
what he accomplished.
Sure. And one of my favorite memories was being in the bathroom with him, and he had this little treasure box that he made and this like pipe tampers and stuffed coins that he made for me. Or we would fish. We had a beach house. And he would take time off of work and we would fish, and he'd be out in his little shorts and, you know, collared polo shirt, and he loved to fish. And like, that was everything.
You're raising two amazing girls now who are obviously growing up in a completely different lifestyle to the way that you did. What is it that you try and instill in them? Knowing that you've gone from having one of the biggest, most lavish homes in Hollywood at the time to then also starting again yourself and building your own life and creating. I think you understand the importance of building and creating and what it takes to earn money.
Yeah.
But how do you, now that they know what you come from, how do you instill in them this good moral compass to say all of that doesn't matter? And how does how you grew up affect the way that you raise your girls?
I try as best I can to not just teach, right? I mean, I could fall into the dad's a life coach and, you know, I don't want to always be the teacher.
You don't want your
However,
kids going, oh, geez.
right. I don't want them to just tune out. But we talk about this a lot because I remember one of my daughters was really into Lego at one time, and we went to the Lego store, and there was the Lego that was the sort of roller coaster Lego, and it was the big, expensive one, and she was just salivating over it, and she was like, I want it so bad. And we did this thing when they were young, and we continued where I literally made lines on a sheet and wrote columns, and they would get $5 every week. $1 would automatically go in the charity pile. So at some point when it built up enough and they found a cause, they would donate to that charity or cause, whatever they wanted, and that they then could take the $4 and save or invest. I gave them a pretty sweet incentive of like 12% return on investment if they invested.
Of course you did. That's
right?
amazing.
To try. But she had, I think it was like $380 or something. And it was a $400 Lego. And she was like, I could buy it. Maybe she had close to $400. She's like, I could buy it. But she was also trying to reconcile with the fact that if I do, I will have
Nothing.
more money. And I could see, it's hard sometimes now as an adult, but as a kid where you're like, that's everything.
Yeah.
And we left the store and her mood was really low. And what we talked about and what I said was, as exciting as this is, think about this. Is it going to change your life? It will be fun. You will love to play with it. But will it actually change your life? And this is just an example of something that I try to have at this point, they're conversations. They're not just me telling. What is important, what we can look at to be grateful for, because it's easy to see the house that I grew up in and go, oh my gosh, that's so cool. We actually looked at it the other day. They were like, I want to live there, that backyard, that whatever. And I get it. Sure, that seems really fun. And also the reality of the upkeep of a house like that. And I don't want to quash their dreams.
Right.
But also to just look at what is really important, because we have guest after guest who have achieved a lot, have a lot of financial success, and they all say the same thing, not because it's a catchphrase, but because money cannot buy happiness. It can buy you choice. It can give you more freedom than what you have now. It can give you nicer things. None of those things inherently make you happy.
Was it hard for you to adjust to that lesson though?
Yes.
Yeah, because you came from so much and then you're like, my God, it's so different to what you grew up with.
I was going to say at the point when your dad had passed and all of the inheritance stuff and everything was going on, and all of a sudden you're kind of left at the other end going, okay, my life is not the way it has been so far. Like, I have to rethink all of it and relearn how to do this. That's a huge lesson.
Was that?
Yeah. How was that experience for you?
Awful. But just to clarify, it wasn't like my dad passed away and then all of a sudden my financial life changed. My financial life was the same. What happened was when I was...
It was the same because you were working, right? So it was...
I was working, but I was always... At one point, I never thought I had to worry about money. Like being a teenager and whatever, it just was always around. I never thought about it. When I became an actor and I was making, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, I was like, hey, I'm doing well. I can go on vacations. I'm just not worried about it. But then I started to meet with a financial person, business manager, from the time I was 19 on. And as we talked about, these meetings at first sounded completely foreign. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I kept meeting with them. And I started watching money and keeping track of the bottom line, right? It wasn't the little things. It wasn't so much the expenses. But then at some point I was like, ooh, could I afford that rent? Okay, I need an apartment where, I need $3,000 for rent. And then at one point I was like, I'm going to get the rent because it's $1,800. That little guest house, it was $1,800 a month, which, to some people probably sounds like a lot, but considering where I came from, and the money, like $1,800 a month was not very much.
So I don't have to worry about rent.
Right.
Yeah, it's also
Right.
unheard of now in LA.
Right. I know. So, but what happened was then I started to worry about money. Then I started watching money go down, partially because I was spending and not making as much, not really acting anymore. And then I became a life coach and was building my business. And I mean, at first it was like a $25,000 business a year. Maybe it moved to 40. But you know, the way that my lifestyle was and what I was spending, I mean, let's say I was spending $300,000 a year, right? So now I'm watching money go down. Then the market tanks. And it went down to the point where I was like, and you want to know the worst thing is I sat with my financial advisors and a couple companies that I had stock with, and I was trying to diversify, and I had even signed the papers, met with them, and then I went out of the country on this like spiritual sojourn for a couple weeks, and that's when the market tanked. But there was missing paperwork that they forgot to have me sign, and so they didn't do the diversification, and I was in sort of like high yield, high risk, and then I was like, oh no, I don't want to wind up with nothing. I want all completely safe as much as possible. So that then started my holding of I don't have, which created a tremendous amount of lack, to the point where at one point our daughter, our oldest daughter, was on the way, and I remember sitting at the little breakfast nook of the table, and a friend of mine was sort of helping me watch over, even though I had a business manager. He was meeting with me and educating me, which I was so thankful for. And he had said about 6 months or a year earlier, he was like, amigo, you might have to start rethinking things soon when it gets down to this point. And so I was looking on Craigslist at the time for other work, and I was looking for, because I had to subsidize my coaching business when I wasn't making enough. And I was like, I'll get part-time. I love food. I'll get part-time at a restaurant. And, it felt very crushing to make basically like very close to minimum wage for hours a day when I was used to my whole life, when I did make money, making more. But I was like, okay, fine, I'll do something. But then I would read these ads and it was like, must have 4 years experience, must have it. I'm like, I have no resume. I have no experience. So I felt frozen. I can't even get the story that I was telling myself, I can't even get a part-time job. What am I going to do? I can't feed my family. That was, again, the story. It wasn't like I was going to be out on the street tomorrow. But that is the narrative that then became part of my everyday thinking, incessantly checking the numbers, incessantly looking at what I have and if it's going down. And this plagued me for years. I still sometimes battle this because I thought that I was not going to have anything, and I didn't want to have to make that call and say, Mom, could you help me out? I don't have anything. Like, I just didn't want to go there. I always wanted to be self-sufficient. That was important to me. But yeah, the lack mentality has been so big in my life. And I think there's some deservingness mixed up in there, some worthiness. And what I now know is because of growing up with my father being so uber successful, and always having that for some reason, because I haven't been able to fully make it yet at the time, that there was something wrong with me, or I wasn't good enough, or I didn't have it. And so I've had to work against that for years. So part of why when you guys are like, whoa, Randy, you're good with finances or money, I don't know if that's necessarily true, is because I became somewhat obsessive because it was my weakness. It haunted me. And what the nail in the coffin was having all of the spiritual self-help knowingness of money doesn't buy happiness. And yet, what am I doing hours of the day? What's keeping me up at night?
Right.
Money.
Was, yeah.
The lack of it.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so tough. And so you still feel like you battle that lack or like scarcity mentality?
At times,
now?
yeah, totally. At times. And I have to work with it. Because when it comes to things themes in your life, they don't just completely go away. You'll work on it, you'll get it, you'll get to a few levels, and somehow there will be something else that triggers it,
Always.
right? Might be
The new version.
Right.
It always reinvents itself.
Right.
Yeah. 2.0, 3.0. It's just like,
right.
It's always new. Yeah.
New opportunities.
Yeah,
And like,
for sure.
there'll be something in business where won't go as planned. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, let me, but I have to work through what that means, because the narrative is sort of like batten down the hatches.
Right.
You're not going to have anything.
Right. Storm warning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so real.
Dude, so much of what you are talking, I loved this conversation because I was saying this to Sharna before, I know so many people watch this show or listen to it and they think Randy's been through so much, but now he's got it all together, and oh my God, he's such a beacon of hope. And it's that mentality of, like, you think that a monk that's on the top of a mountain has all of it together, but it's not until you realize that they are on top of a mountain because that's where they feel like they need to be to hold it together the way they are, So I think for people to hear you now really helps people realize that we are all human, and the struggle, it's not that the struggles are different. It's the way you meet the challenge of those struggles that is different. And that's what we're always trying to share with people, and we're always trying to promote. And I think you are just such an incredible success story with who you are and what you've come from. And I will say 1,000% factually that I can't imagine that your dad isn't looking down on you, just so proud of who you are. Proud
Thank
of
you.
the father that you are, proud of the man that you are, and the fact that you have really made it your life's work to share this journey that people can take in finding who they are and finding love and compassion, because it's rare. It's rare. Most people don't make that choice in their life. And I think that you are just a beacon of what it should be. And you, to me, live what we always talk about in what we want our legacy to be. Your legacy should be, and I guarantee will be, oh my God, this was a guy that could have gone in so many dark directions and didn't. And I'm so honored to reconnect with you again and be doing this. And I know we shocked you with this one today, but I think this has been an amazing day, and I love you, and I'm so proud of who you are and proud of the fact that I've known you as long as I have, and I get to still call you brother and like really genuinely feel that way. I'm
grateful
love you.
for that too.
I
love you
to
too.
death.
Sharna, I've come to love you in the time of knowing you and working together. I remember that first car ride after the photo shoot we did and just asking so many questions and being like, oh, she's amazing. I get it, right? I get it. one thing I want to say, just one last thing, is those dark directions that you talk about. I did go in a lot of those dark directions in a sense, but I think there's so many times in my life that I asked why. And I think people can relate to this. Why me? Why is this happening? Why? And sometimes even asking that question is so painful because it's not a real question. It's just a cry for, stop, I'm hurting. Why is this happening to me? But looking back now, all of the things that I went through, being born into this life, while also being like super sensitive and tuned into people. And so I'm getting like the richness, pun intended, in so many different ways, but also understanding asking the question, what is richness? Is this actually really richness? And what enhances life? And so I've been asking these questions for such a long time. And I feel that I've been put in this unique opportunity to sort of have everything that so many people want. And then at some points really not having and knowing what it's like to really feel pain, what it's like to grieve, what it's like to not like yourself, hate yourself, question yourself, not think that you're enough, not think that you can make it or do it, and work through that and find the way out and find the light and come out of that tunnel. So as much as I've been in pain many times throughout my life, there's been wonderful things that happened in my family, from my family, and my life where I'm like, as we always say, I wouldn't change any of that because I was put in the exact places that I needed to be
who you are
walk the walk, to be able to say, not just like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness, but I've been on both sides.
Right. Yeah.
I've been close to broke.
Yeah.
And I've had unfathomable, like, oh, I'm never going to have to work. Everything's okay. And I can tell you that there's so much in between, and we get to craft that and create that. And the gift is finding yourself, knowing yourself, and finding what it is that makes you happy. And I think it's different for every person. There's some basic things that we all have fundamentally, but hey, if it is the Range Rover that really will do it for you and actually make you happy, go get that Range Rover. I'm not going to stop you. I'll help you. But let's not take the Range Rover or the house or the relationship that seems perfect and dangle that carrot and say that's what it's going to be to make you feel the way that you want to feel, because you'll get that and then there'll be another thing and another thing. So
this is why you're doing what you do, Randy. You're the perfect person for it, for all the things that you just said. And we're so lucky to have you here with us, because you get to share that with us and the people that come on. And it's very, very cool. And it's been really cool for me to listen to more of you in depth and to get to see you're an open sharer anyway, I feel. Yeah. And even if you don't say it, I can see so much in you. But to truly hear what it was like being you and the experiences you have, I find it fascinating that from the crib you were so spiritually connected. You were always meant to be this person who you are now and helping people, but you were also supposed to have those life experiences because you can then speak from them, but also people can be like, no, man, he's lived it. Like if anyone knows, Randy knows.
Yeah.
And so I think it gives even more validation to your incredible talents and skill sets and gifts in the way that you help people, because you have lived it. You didn't just have the manor and now you're trying to tell people that money doesn't matter, doesn't make you happy.
You spend so much time asking questions. it's been so cool to finally get to ask you some questions.
Yeah,
And
which
for
is
you to
nice.
just sit there and
And I find I'm like, what would Randy ask right now? Dang it, I need to channel Randy.
myself as a
It's fun. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm happy that you did it this way, even though you really threw me at first, because I would have thought about it more,
Of course.
or there would have been that like, oh no. So I'm actually happy that we did this. So
it's
completely
exactly
on the
what I
fly.
said to
Brian
her. I was
had the
like,
instinct.
I'm telling you, this is how we're going to get like the truly authentic Randy. And you were here.
Randy,
you.
You joined us.
I asked ChatGPT to find videos of you acting last night because I was like, I
yeah.
want to see.
Did you see any?
He was so good.
Oh yeah,
There was
with the
one
hard-boiled eggs and the whole.
Oh
were
my
trying to eat all the
gosh!
eggs and there was-
With Barry Watson.
With Barry
opposite
Watson.
Barry Watson.
Yeah, Seventh Heaven.
So cute.
That's what I said.
Baby
Seeing it, I
Randy.
was like, I swear that's because at first I was like, that is not Barry Watson, and it was like,
Yeah.
no, that's Barry.
Yeah,
That's so
very
funny.
Yeah.
Randy Spelling, thank you for hanging out with us on Oldish. Thank you for being
Thanks
in the
for
hot
being a
seat.
guest. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing so openly and beautifully. And I think everyone's going to love listening to you because I certainly did.
Thank you for tricking me.
Anytime.
Oh, I've got
I'll
a
leave
good
that
one
to
for
this
her.
one.
I've
Right.
got a
Oh,
really
okay.
good one for her.
It's on.
To
Yeah.
everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Oldish and getting to know our guy Randy. I think there was probably a lot in there that maybe you didn't know about him. There was certainly a lot there that I didn't know. And I think there's a lot in it that will also help and inspire. And I think it's an episode that you should share with people because I think it will help and inspire them too. So share it around, give us a like, a subscribe, and a follow because it really does help us more than you know. It helps us bring you incredible content and incredible guests and to be in this space that we're in. So we appreciate you doing that too. And we'll see you on the next one.